Good evening. Welcome to the News Charter School Board of Directors meeting for August 24th, 2021. I'm going to call the roll to establish a quorum. Nicole. You were muted, I think. I think you said here. Okay, I see you nodding. Michelle.
Yes,
oh, that's okay. Thanks, Nicole. Michelle.
Here.
Rodney.
Here.
Jason.
Here.
Jennifer.
Here.
Robbie.
Here.
Benji.
Here.
Paul.
Here.
Wonderful. Having established a quorum, I hereby call the News Charter School Board of Directors meeting to order at 6:02 p.m. on August 24th, 2021. I will now read the ethics statement. Conflict of interest reminder per North Carolina General Statute 138A-15E. Board members are reminded that it is our duty to avoid conflicts of interest and the appearance of conflicts of interest as we handle the work of this board. Does any member of the board know of any conflict of interest or any appearance of conflict with respect to any matters coming before us at this meeting? If so, please state them for the record. If during the course of the meeting you become aware of an actual or apparent conflict of interest, please bring the matter to the attention of the chair. It will then be your duty to abstain from participating in discussion on the matter and from voting on the matter. All right, moving on to reading and approval of the minutes. We actually have 3 sets of minutes tonight: our June meeting, our regular July meeting, and our emergency meeting from July 29th. We can read these aloud or silently, or if everyone has read them, I will entertain a motion to approve the minutes.
Hey, Jane, just for a technical detail, you said July 29th. I mean, the file I saw says July 27th. Is that?
July 27th was the regular board meeting. The emergency board meeting was July 29th. So there are 3 sets of minutes.
Well, it says
June 29th, July 27th, and July 29th. And all 3 of them are in the packet.
Okay, there's one that says 6/29 in there. I see.
Yes, exactly. We never approved the June minutes because that was the meeting that Nicole was absent for. So it took us a while to get the minutes together. So we have 3 sets of minutes: June 29th, July 27th, and July 29th. And all 3 sets of minutes were in the folder and in the board packet. So do I have a motion to approve the minutes?
Move we approve the minutes as presented.
Okay, thank you, Robbie. Paul, thank you for the second. Any discussion or corrections? Hearing none, I will call the vote to call the roll to approve the minutes. Nicole.
Aye.
Michelle.
Aye.
Rodney.
Aye.
Jason.
Aye.
Jennifer.
Aye.
Robbie.
Aye.
Benji.
Aye.
Paul.
Aye.
The vote carries. The minutes are approved. All right, Brad, do we have anyone who has signed up for public comment?
We're actually having a problem with the video right now. I'm having to restart it. So
Okay.
no, because they don't know that it's their time to sign up yet.
Okay, wonderful. Well, once you get that started, if anyone has signed up for that, please let me know and we'll pause to allow them their time to comment.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Guest discourse. We are ready for our micro training from Dr. Carpenter. Dr. Carpenter, did you just join us?
I did. I'm having Google Chrome issues, so I decided to pick today to do it. So it forced me to dial in.
No
I-
worries.
I think I sent you the link to the handout, Jane. If you can you get that handout up on screen?
I think you told me you were going to have a link. I don't remember. Did you text it to me?
Oh, you know what?
Or-
You're right. Yep, I told you. Give me just 1 second, and I'm going to text
Okay.
it to you.
Perfect.
Let's see here. And what a day for Chrome decide that it needs to be updated, right?
Of course.
Perfect
Isn't
timing.
that always the way?
Okay, I sent you a link there. I just actually sent it to Michelle. Hang on. There we go. Now I sent it to you. There you go.
Okay. All right. I will work on getting this up on the screen.
All right. And while you do that, I'll go ahead and start talking about it. Let me just get to let me get my version of it open.
Perfect. Thank you.
Okay. So the topic for our micro training today is how to make meeting every other month work. And this kind of came into the discussion at a recent committee meeting where we were talking about the strategic plan, and we kind of backed into this topic. And I said, well, unless your charter requires it, or the authorizer requires it, or statute requires it, it is entirely possible to meet on an every other month schedule and still get the board's work done. So I got a little handout together, and basically there are 3 observations. Like all of my micro trainings, it's just a 1-page PDF, and so like all of my micro trainings, these 3 observations fit on this page. The first observation for making this idea work is probably something that many of you have heard of, called Parkinson's Law. And this is the observation that work tends to expand to fill the amount of time that we allocate to it. So if you apply Parkinson's Law to a board and you say, okay, well, we're going to meet 10 times a year, then naturally the amount of time that it takes the board to deliberate matters and vote on them, it will automatically fill up 10 sessions. On the other hand, if the board said, all right, we're just going to meet every other month, the amount of time that it would take you to deliberate matters and vote on them would decrease accordingly. So my recommendation for boards is that you meet as often as you need in view of Parkinson's Law, but not any more than you need to. The second observation is another principle I know a lot of you are familiar with and probably use in your professional lives, called the 80-20 principle, or also known as the Pareto principle. And basically, the Pareto principle says that 80% of your results are produced by 20% of your inputs. Now, I want to just pause there. That's not a literal 80 and 20, and it's not even a literal 100%. It's actually a mathematical power law that's a lot more complicated than that. But as a concept or a principle, that's how the principle is explained to other people. So, for example, if you have 5 stocks that you've invested in, Pareto principle will predict that one of those 5 stocks will produce 80% of the total investment. In your house, if you have carpeting, 20% of the total area of carpeting gets 80% of the wear and tear. In your closet, where you have clothes and shoes hanging, Pareto principle predicts that you wear the same 20% of the clothes hanging there 80% of the time that you go out the door. And it has social implications. 20% of the people commit 80% of the crime in the country. 80% of the wealth is owned and controlled by 20% of the population. I mean, it's endless. But applying it to a board meeting, unless the board intentionally overrides the principle by focusing its time and effort, it would mean that in a 90-minute meeting, let's say, the 80-20 principle predicts that 80% of the value is produced in only 18 of those 90 minutes, i.e. 20%. So if a board is willing to stick to its agenda, follow basic parliamentary procedure, organize its annual recurring work using the SOC, exercise self-control in its deliberations, and fully prepare ahead of time, for example, reading minutes, it is possible to produce the same results with fewer meetings or even few meetings. And then observation number 3 is not so much a principle, but just a very practical thing, and that is this notion of committees, because there are still things that are going on at the school that the board needs to stay on top of, or as I like to say, keep your finger on the pulse of it. And so this is where you use your committee. So as I have explained to you in other training contexts, in my opinion, that most charter school boards can function effectively with only 3 standing committees: a financial oversight committee, a risk management oversight committee, and a governance committee. And so, in my opinion, the financial oversight committee should generally meet monthly, because that's the frequency at which financial reports are produced, and not coincidentally, the same frequency or interval with which bank statements and credit card statements are generated. The risk management oversight committee can ordinarily accomplish its work on a quarterly basis, and then the governance committee can usually meet as needed. So pulling it all together, your board could say, and I think you guys are ready for this, your board could say, we're going to go to an every other month meeting schedule as a full board, but that committee piece does need to happen. Like, you don't want to go 2 months and without a board committee reviewing and monitoring the things that occur with financial oversight and all of that. So it's sort of like, yes, this will work, but there's a good way to do it and a not so good way to do it. All right, Madam Chair, that puts us at 2 minutes and 38 seconds for questions and answers. I don't know if you succeeded at getting on screen. And when I get done talking, I'm going to keep trying to update my Chrome setting here so that you'll see me get on here at some point.
Perfect. I was not able to share my screen, but board members and Dr. Blackwell, I sent you his handout by email, so you should have a copy of that. Does anyone have questions for Dr. Carpenter? Hearing none. Thank you, Dr. Carpenter, as always, for a great micro training. I think the handout speaks very clearly to what you were talking about, and I think, as you said, it's timely considering the work of the Ad Hoc Outcomes Committee that I'm sure we'll hear about later. So thank you again for doing that.
Yeah, my pleasure. Just if I may, real quick, just a reminder, and those of you who are on my subscription list will already be aware of this, but most of you are not. But I'm doing a live webinar on financial oversight this Thursday at 10 a.m. Pacific time. So as a client school, you get access to those webinars for free. Non-client schools pay $800 a year. So got a live webinar on the very important topic of financial oversight this Thursday, 10 a.m. Pacific. What would that be? 1 p.m. Eastern time. And the link will be available. And if you're on my list, I actually do send out the link. So a little incentive there to get on the list if you haven't already subscribed. And of course, I set up that handout using an email wall. So if you grab that handout, you will automatically make the list.
Great. Thank you so much. Thank you.
You bet. All right.
All right. Brad, are we back up with the video? I know we're streaming live on Facebook, but.
Yes, ma'am, we are.
Okay, perfect. So I'm assuming then that we're good to move on without public comment. Okay. Thank you so much, Brad. All right. Next on the agenda is correspondence from our authorizer, Dr. Blackwell.
Hi, everybody. We did receive some information from OCS this month that let us know that the State Board of Education has given them kind of permission or freedom, if you will, to approve amended charters to include blended learning models. So what that means is that as a charter school, we can create a blended learning model. We can add it to our charter as an amendment and submit it to OCS. And then instead of having it to go to the State Board of Education, which is a pretty lengthy time period of about 6 months, OCS has been given permission to approve those for charters, specifically because we don't have any other options aside from amending a charter to offer a blended learning model. So I will be working on a blended learning option to potentially include as an amendment to our charter to bring back to the board in the coming months. But I just want to let you all know that State Board has handed that off to OCS, considering the very significant limitations that we have to operate in COVID, aside from a 5-day in-person model. So I will be working on that to bring to you very soon.
And Dr. Blackwell, when you say blended, you mean virtual versus in person, correct?
Blended is a combination of in-person and virtual.
Okay.
We cannot do a full virtual option. That is not, I don't think, going to ever be anything we're going to be able to do outside of the governor allowing it to happen. But they did allow us to write an amendment to the charter to have a blended option. So a blended would be very much like what we did last year with an A day, or A group and a B group, a remote day on Wednesday, working kind of cohorts as opposed to everybody in school all day, every day.
And so that sort of requirement to amend the charter is, as far as you know, as of today, the only way that we could offer something like that. Is that right?
That is correct. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Anybody have any other questions regarding that piece of news? All right. Thank you for sharing that. With that, we can segue into your superintendent's report.
All right, very good. Thank you. So I have 2 things to present to you this evening. I'm having a bit of an issue with my camera, so I'm going to turn that off when I share my screen.
Hold on just a second.
All right, can everybody see? I'm having some glitches. I want to make sure we're good.
Yeah, I can see it.
Okay, very good. All right, so our ADM update as of this afternoon is holding at 893. We still have waiting lists for most of our grades, except for 4th grade, 5th grade, 7th grade, 9th grade, and 10th grade. We have exhausted our waiting lists for those grade levels. We created a budget for this year with an ADM of 925. If we hold at 893, that's going to put us at about a $188,000 deficit. There is still some hope that hold harmless is going to be passed. And if that is the case, then our budget will be paid out at an ADM of 932, which puts us beyond our budgeted amount of 925. But as of today, I have no updates to share about where hold harmless is in the Senate. So I wanted to just let everybody know kind of where we are. I'll continue to update the board as information becomes available about hold harmless. And then obviously we'll continue to watch these numbers. Our day 20 for ADM is September 10th. So at that point, after September 10th, where we land is where we'll be. So just bear that in mind. And then the bulk of what I want to talk about this evening is COVID. I want to take some time and just highlight the ongoing challenge of COVID. And my hope is that I can clear up some misperceptions and provide some insight into what the first 12 days of school have been like for News Charter School. Before I begin, it is critical to me that I recognize the tremendous amount of work that Amanda Heifel has put into ensuring that our students are safe. She has worked tirelessly to stay on top of changes to guidance and in communication with parents about COVID. Without her support and without the expertise of our nurse, Ms. Joyner, Ms. Moody, and the entire admin team, we would be in a much different situation. So I think it's important to give credit where credit is due, and certainly goes to Ms. Heifel. So I want to share with you first the first 10 days of school for us. This is what this looks like. This was updated on Saturday.
Melissa, I'm sorry. Is there a way you can make it a little bit bigger?
Of
The
course.
numbers are a little small. Thank you. Oh, that's much better. Thank
There
you.
you go. Okay.
Yep.
You got it. This was updated on Saturday, and this data reflects the quarantine and isolations with our mask mandate in place as of Saturday. Now, it's important to note that since Saturday, these numbers have risen, including 4 more confirmed positive cases that we have been working to mitigate. The next slide shows that if our masks had been optional, the mask mandate had not been in place, these are the estimates of what our numbers would look like instead. And so instead of quarantining 3 or 4 children within 6 feet during lunch and snack without masks, we'd have to quarantine on average about 20 students per case. So I want to take just a moment and be very clear about this mask mandate, because when we met previously, some of the guidance was that if they wore masks, they wouldn't have to quarantine. And that is true, except during lunch and when they're eating. They don't wear their masks when they're eating. And our lunch is about 25 minutes long. And so there has been quarantining due to students not wearing masks at lunchtime and at snack time. So I just want to make sure our greater community knows that we are only quarantining when those are the situations. When our students wear their masks during the day in their core classes, there's no quarantining. But when we have lunch and we have snack, that's what's catching us. And so I think it's important for me to make sure our community understands that. The next slide.
Melissa, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I don't mean to interrupt. I just want to make sure on those first 2 slides. So basically, because with the masks, what the students who are being quarantined are the ones who are within 6 feet of someone without a mask during lunch.
Yes.
Is that's correct? Okay, so that's where the difference is. If masks were optional, we would be quarantining most or all of the class.
That's right.
Okay, thank you.
So on Friday, we received some updated guidance, and I want to touch base about this because it continues to kind of clarify things. You know, things are much more clear for me after 12 days of going through this than they were before school started, just having lived it and experienced it. We received guidance this past Friday that we no longer need to quarantine due to a presumed positive case, only confirmed cases. So prior to Friday, we were quarantining from presumed positive and confirmed positive. So this change allowed us to bring many students back to school on Monday because the presumed positive and confirmed positive are not the same. So what's happening now is we are quarantining students who have been exposed to someone who has been confirmed to have COVID. All of last year and up until Friday, the guidance was that we were to quarantine anyone who was around a confirmed case or anyone who was symptomatic. We were to assume that they were positive if they had symptoms of COVID, and that has changed. So I want to make sure everyone understands that if your child is quarantined beginning Monday, moving forward, it means that they have been exposed to someone who has been confirmed to have COVID. This quote is a direct quote from the FAQ for the Strong Schools Toolkit. You can find it on page 2. I'm just going to read it because I just want to make sure everyone understands that these aren't new charter school rules. These are rules that are being handed to us that we have to follow. Local school leaders are responsible for requiring and implementing strategies in the Strong Schools North Carolina Public Health Toolkit in consultation with their local health departments. The updated toolkit reflects the expertise of the CDC, the American Academy of Pediatrics, and public health experts on how to keep children in person and safe in schools with layered prevention strategies. So moving on, when we talk about COVID and we talk about its impact on our school, I've got several slides here about specific areas of impact. The first one is on operations. We have 74 staff members and we have 61 teachers. We can manage to cover up about 25% of our staff being absent with COVID by pulling our 6 instructional assistants, 5 administrators, not all who can cover at the same time, of course. And then we're able to put 3 classes of high school students and middle and high school students in the commons. We can cover that with 1 to 2 employees. On average, we have a roster of 5 active substitute teachers who also are not available every day. And so therefore, if we have 15 or more teachers absent, we are not able to support instruction in all of our classrooms. That is the impact that we are feeling when we have to quarantine our teachers. Because remember that students do not have to quarantine if they're wearing a mask, but our staff still do if they are not vaccinated. Impact on communication. We have a 48-hour business rule for responding to emails. However, I am speaking on behalf of our entire staff when I say that we need patience as we are juggling the demands and the constant changes of instruction, changes to schedules, changes to operations, and not to mention supporting our staff and our families as we navigate our own personal challenges with COVID. Just last week, the guidance changed from 7 symptoms, which we were managing 7 symptoms last year, to 16. 16 symptoms that we have to now look for. Keeping track of that in and of itself is a full-time job. And we are all trying to keep the school running and keep COVID from impacting our students. But we also recognize that right now, considering the significant demands of COVID and the demands of our administrative roles, we are asking for patience and understanding from our community. If we don't respond to you within 48 hours, there is a lot going on. We are triaging this as best we can with, the urgency of health and safety being paramount to all of our operations right now, as it always is. But this is just a much more critical place that we find ourselves in. And there is simply not enough time in the day or the night to fulfill everything that we're trying to do. And so I am asking for our News family to just understand that and provide some patience and support, because we are doing our absolute best to minimize this as much as we can. Our impact on staff. The News Charter School staff is amazing. Are they perfect? No. Am I? No, of course not. But they continue to do everything that we have asked them to do. They're sending late night emails. They're staying up late to connect with students. And not to mention the fact that we have implemented new curriculum this year. So they're learning a new curriculum. Some of them are learning 2, and they're still trying to manage this as best that they can. So I truly could not be more proud of what is happening and how they are managing all of this. But it's an impact on all of them. Constant change, pivoting, adjusting, adapting. They're working tirelessly. And it's been really hard for them. It's been really hard for a lot of us, because there's a lot of anger and there's a lot of frustration that's directed at them and that's directed at us for simply enforcing what we are supposed to enforce. A lot of our instructional assistants are all over this campus all day, every day. Some very rarely even getting to get into the classroom, because we're pulling them to cover classes or to help support this COVID mitigation. And so I think it's important that we recognize, yes, it's easy to be frustrated, and yes, there can be a lot of anger about this, but it shouldn't be directed at them. This shouldn't be directed at them. They are doing the absolute best that they can do, and I could not be more proud of them. Our impact on our students. So we know that this is an impact on our students, and this is not a normal start to the school year. It is certainly not how we wanted things to go. Day one was fantastic. Everybody was so excited to be here. Day two was fantastic. And then day three, it got very real, very fast. But it's important to know that we are all united in supporting these kids and fulfilling our promise to them to raise the bar in K-12 education. It is what drives us. It is what motivates us. It's what gets us here every morning. And we're committed to teaching them. We're committed to educating them. We are committing to making them the very best that they can be. And we are beyond proud of them as well for working so hard every day and for being compliant with their masks, and doing what they need to do so that they can stay well and they can stay here and they can get an education. I was in a math PLC today, and one of the high school math teachers was just raving about her students and about how proud she was that they really wanted to be here and that they were really trying hard to learn, as if they all know the mountain that we're all trying to climb, but we're trying to climb it together. And again, just as we are very proud of our staff, we're also very proud of our students. So here is my ask for the community: positivity, compliance, support, and patience. Positivity. Post something on social media that great that happened about your child. Celebrate our staff, celebrate your children, celebrate our school. The world seems a little bit lighter when you can find some good, when you can assume positive intent. And compliance, we just read directions, follow what we're asking you to do. Stay on top of this outside of our guidance, and help us help you. For support, like, I don't need everybody to agree. In fact, I believe a deep level of respect is established when people can agree to disagree. But on this, we just need everybody to strive to understand and empathize and support, and to also understand that we're not the bad guys. Nobody is. And patience. We're working around the clock to manage this, and we will respond to you as fast as we can, but we're moving from urgent to important. And right now, everything about COVID is urgent. I mentioned earlier some Office of Charter School guidance, and I want to touch base on that to just let you all know kind of where we are and the work we've done behind the scenes. These are the things that are kind of in process with OCS. We have asked for asynchronous learning to be provided to quarantine and isolated students, and that was approved, and we have implemented it. We have already started doing that, but we are doing it as best we can within the confines of what we've been handed. Asynchronous learning is not synchronous learning. It is not a live teacher, but thankfully that's something, because when we started, we didn't even have that. This has been approved by OCS, but it has not been implemented by News Charter School yet. And that is our remote Wednesdays. OCS said that that was something that we could do if it meant that we needed to clean our buildings if we have a COVID outbreak or a COVID cluster, or we just have an increase in cases. But we have not yet implemented that. The data for the survey that I sent out a couple of weeks ago, just to kind of better understand where the community was feeling about remote Wednesdays, if we had to revert back to it. That data is going to be shared on our COVID page on our website later this week. But just so you know, 97% of our staff supported the remote Wednesdays, and 61% of our families supported it as well. Finally, not approved by OCS, and this is what I'm asking of you this evening, is that you will authorize me to make the decision to move to an asynchronous learning day when 25% or more of our teachers are absent, and that you will authorize me to implement a remote Wednesday as needed. So just to reiterate, those are the requests that I have this evening, and then also just support with non-compliant families and students. I'm sure it's no surprise that this has been an interesting situation to be placed in, and you all are receiving feedback just as we are. But it's one thing to be upset. It's another thing to send your child to school who we have already quarantined. So I'm asking for more of just some solidarity and unity here, that we may not all agree, but we all agree that we're going to continue to do what's best for our students. And that's having them here as much as possible. The goal is and always will be that they are here learning face-to-face in person. And we want as many of them here as we can get here, but we also have to make preparations for rising numbers and the increased impact to our school and to our community. And that is the end of my presentation. I'm going to turn my camera back on now. Okay. All right. So questions, thoughts, concerns?
Dr. Blackwell, this is Michelle. How would the asynchronous days, when 25% or more of the staff or teachers are out, how would that be implemented?
So if we have an asynchronous day for teachers who are out 25% or more, teachers already load lessons, they already make videos. Our students would just be logging into Canvas and doing the coursework for that day that's already been pre-populated.
And what about notice to the families?
The goal is that we are able to provide at least 24 hours notice. I would not, as a mother of four, be comfortable, calling it at 9 o'clock the night before the school day. I just think that would be terrible for our community. But if we have a knowledge that a cluster has hit and we've got to, send home 10 or 12 people, we're going to have pretty good notice of that, and we'll be able to plan accordingly. But otherwise, if there's not a 24-hour notice and we've got more than 25%, that's when we're going to pull admin and counselors and whoever else can step in to help get us through it.
Based on the information that you're looking at right now, if this were implemented, how often do you think this would be utilized? And would it be consecutive days, or what are your thoughts on that?
I don't think it would be utilized much. This is more planning for an impact of a cluster. I don't know if any of you saw, but Wake County had 6 on day 1 yesterday. And so a lot of what I've put together is really to just have a safety net when things happen. It's not necessarily like I'm gonna use it often. It's gonna be a worst case, born out of necessity decision.
And for the same thing with the remote Wednesday for deep cleaning, as needed, what would as needed be, and what are you looking at there?
Again, for if we see a rise in numbers, so over the weekend we had 4 positive cases. If that were to have happened on a Monday or a Tuesday, we would look at what the options are to have some kind of deep cleaning happen to our school before our students come back. So again, it's more of preparing for what could happen than being caught off guard when it does.
And last question, because I know some other board members have questions as well. Have we been in a situation thus far where you would have needed to have utilized either of these measures?
Friday, we had a significant number of teachers that were absent due to COVID. We made it through. It was not pretty, but we made it through, as we always do. But had we had this in place, Friday would have been a day.
Okay.
Yeah.
Other questions?
I think Robbie raised his hand.
I have one.
Oh, I'm sorry, Robbie. I didn't see that your hand was raised.
Trying to be nice.
Go ahead. Yeah, I appreciate it. Sorry, I wasn't looking. My fault.
So Dr. Blackwell, if I heard you correctly, you're saying that the real issue is whenever we're at lunch with our mask off somewhat.
Mm-hmm.
Is that what I'm hearing?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So my question, this wasn't on your list right there, but I remember in the past last year, whenever we had a shortened day where we left at 12:30 or something, not sure. I don't think the kids ate lunch up to that point or something, but they probably still have to have a snack or something. I don't know. Just throwing that out there. Have you considered if that is a possibility.
A half a day option.
Yep.
Yes, that would be a part of that blended learning model that we would have to get approved through OCS. But that would definitely be something we would consider. We did not have these issues last year because last year they were telling us, the older kids were the ones more impacted, the 6 through 12. And so when they had half days and left, there was no need for lunch. There was a few here that ate, but now the reverse has happened.
Yes.
And we're really getting impacted in K-5. And those kids did stay last year and they did have lunch and we didn't have any issues. So it's absolutely something that we will consider for sure.
Gotcha. Thanks.
Sure.
Dr. Blackwell, what was your third ask? I'm sorry.
Just for support with our families.
Other questions for Dr. Blackwell?
How about any options for spacing our kids out during lunch? Is that an opportunity as well for us to increase spacing?
We have looked at that and we have attempted it. The problem that we're having is because all of the manpower that's needed to separate them out and have them supervised is being pulled to cover teachers' classes who are quarantined. We just simply don't have enough people. And we can separate them out and say this is what's going to happen, but if we have to pull an IA or if we have to pull someone else to go cover a teacher so they can leave to quarantine, they're all put back together. And so like a sustainable plan that would ensure enough adults to split them apart, we just don't have the people for it. We don't have enough people. We've looked at it. We have mapped it out. There's been all kinds of thought gone into it. And I really thought we were going to be able to make it work. But then with this last week and us having a significant number of staff members having to quarantine, it really just pulled all those people that we had put into groups and put them into classrooms. I would love to do that. I would love to split them apart and space them out. And this would completely be a non-issue in terms of no masks and eating. I'm personally feeling it right now with 3 of my 4. So I get it on all sides. I understand it. I wish we had, countless people that could come in and do that with us, but we don't.
So is that a space? Are you saying it's more of a spacing issue or a funding issue? Because we can go hire some extra people, right? Temporarily to just maybe help cover that. But if it's a space issue, we can go get a bunch of big pop-up tents and air condition them or something. That's a whole different discussion, but kind of which one's the primary contributor?
Well, the primary contributor is staffing. And I would love to say that we've got plenty of subs that we could call in to help cover lunch, but at best we've got 5 at best.
Do they have to be a sub to cover lunch though? Could we just, we got, I don't know, volunteer parents or?
That gets really sticky. That gets really sticky with background checks. That gets really sticky with COVID and screening. And, they've told us that we need to really limit non-essential visitors on our campuses. And I don't know that that's going to work either, because then we have someone come in and volunteer and then they get sick. I don't know that that's what's best right now. Again, find me a bunch of people and we'll make it happen, because I'm just as tired of this as everybody else is.
Just what I was getting at. If we need to, I'm understanding it's part of what the ESSER money is for, right? If we need to go hire additional support staff, and I don't know how you'd frame it, right? I was just thinking, if we can go hire them, and it helps us keep them in school, then I think we should consider it. And then if logistically, right, if they have to be dedicated or, they have to agree to be there so many days a week, so that we go through all of the standard stuff, then, for vetting them and background checks and all that stuff, because I don't see this going away anytime soon.
No, I agree with you there.
Yeah, just something to consider.
Sure.
Okay. Other questions for Dr. Blackwell?
I do have one question. So I've had a couple of parents that kind of expressed some concerns about when we are quarantining, when we're having to quarantine some of these students, when we send them home, are they allowed to do any type of like remote login option to observe like what's going on in the classroom, or are we not allowed to do that?
They can, yes,
Okay.
they can.
Okay.
Okay, good questions, everyone. I believe Dr. Blackwell was asking for us to take action on 2 items. So I will entertain a motion if anyone wants to make that regarding giving her authorization around the asynchronous days when 25% or more of teachers are absent, and around the remote Wednesdays for deep cleaning as needed.
Hi, Jane. This is Michelle. I'll make a motion. I move that the NCS board grant Dr. Blackwell, our superintendent, the authority for the 21-22 school year to do the following. 1, use an asynchronous learning day when 25% or more of NCS teachers are absent. And 2, implement remote Wednesday for deep cleanings only as needed, as approved by the Office of Charter Schools.
Thank you, Michelle. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Oh, Jennifer? Okay, thank you. Okay, discussion on the motion? Okay, hearing none, I will call the roll for vote. I'm sorry, did somebody? Okay. Okay, I'm going to call the roll for a vote. Nicole?
Aye.
Michelle?
Aye.
Rodney?
Aye.
Jason?
Aye.
Jennifer?
Aye.
Robbie?
Aye.
Benji?
Aye.
Paul?
Aye.
And I will add my aye to that as well. Dr. Blackwell, motion carries. You have that authorization. That will appear in the minutes. If you need anything else from us for the Office of Charter Schools, please let us know.
Okay, thank you all so much.
I just want to take a moment to on behalf of the board, to thank you and the entire administration team, the staff, our families, our students, for everything that everyone is doing. You know, we talk about News Charter School being a community. This is really a time when you can see the community stepping forward and really trying to support all of you. I know there have been exceptions to that, and I'm sorry for that. I'm sorry for the times that families, parents, whoever has taken out their frustration on you or anyone of at the school. You know, I understand this is such a hard time. We've all had 18 months of this. Everyone's tired. Everyone's frustrated. I just really, really hope, as you said, that we can come together as a community, and that our community can give the school the benefit of the doubt, because I know personally, I think every board member here knows personally, that you all are working day and night to do everything in your power to keep kids in the classroom and to keep them in person. And it is not easy. It has never been easy, but I know it's even harder this year than it was last year. And you guys are doing a Herculean task. There is no perfect answer. There's nothing that, I mean, it would be awesome if we all could just say, hey, let's just do this. This will be the easy answer. And there just aren't any. And I see every day you all trying your best to make the best of a bad situation. And we couldn't ask any more of you. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to stop now. All right, let's move on to our financial report. Benji.
Thank you, Jane. Finance Committee met back on Wednesday, August the 11th. We reviewed the L4 and L5 views of the July budget. Plus, we discussed the cash account balances and reviewed those. We also discussed investment options for the school for our reserve account. Another discussion topic focused on reviewing and approving contracts, as well as the new charter school, the fiscal policy manual. And the last topic of discussion from that group was concerning just the uncertainty of funding, kind of like Dr. Blackwell talked about. You have competition from increasing your educational choices, and you also have your pending legislation and state budgets that are still out there waiting to be fully known by us. So do have some uncertainty there. I wanted to go over the budgets for the month of July. Our total revenues were $590,817.05. Our total expenses for the month were $626,088.07, giving us a deficit of $35,271.02. For our cash account balances, the two largest accounts are the operating account, and that one was $1,196,782.16. Our second account, the reserve account, has $853,437.15. Total up the four accounts that we do have come to $2,122,302.62, and that is as of the end of July 31st. And that's it for the finance report.
Thank you very much, Benji. I appreciate that. We are going to move on to our standing committee reports. I do just briefly before I start going through these. I know we've got a lot of new families. It's a new start to the school year. We probably have some people who haven't watched our meetings before. And I just want to say we're going to go through a lot of these standing committees, and most of them will not have met. And so I wanted to kind of explain that. I explained it several months ago, but our board consultant, Dr. Carpenter, has helped us understand over the course of the last year what are board responsibilities and what are administration or school level responsibilities. And many, if not most, of our committees were formed at a time before we knew that, and they were doing the work of the administration or the school rather than of the board. So several months ago, we paused those committees that were doing work that was truly inappropriate for the board. We're in the process of rewriting our bylaws. Those should be finished hopefully soon. We'll hear about that in a couple of minutes. And our committee structure will be a structure that is more appropriate, and we'll have committees that do board level work. But as long as these committees exist in our bylaws, we do at least have to mention them. And so I just wanted to, for new families especially, I wanted to make sure that you understood why, as I read these, we're going to bypass most of them. So that being said, our standing committee reports, our executive committee did not meet. Our finance committee has just given their report with our treasurer, Benji. Our academic affairs committee did not meet. Resource development, Paul? No? Correct. Okay. Board development, Michelle, I know board development committee met.
Yes, we did. We met August 23rd at 6 o'clock, and we met to review those additional revisions to our bylaws. We also discussed our proposal for continued services by Dr. Carpenter. And then we also just very briefly kind of touched on updating our nominations process as well. We are meeting again August the 31st and also at 5 o'clock, and also on September the 13th at 5:30. We are working on our continuing to work on those bylaws. We have met with an attorney and who has reviewed those as well and given us some great feedback. So we're trying to kind of go through all of those comments, questions that were presented, and so hopefully we'll is long overdue, but I'm hoping that we will have all of that completed in the next month or so. As far as the proposal for Dr. Carpenter, let me grab my.
Michelle, I think that's under new business.
Oh, okay. So, yeah, do you want me to
so
wait till new business?
Yeah, let's do that.
Okay, let me see
Thank
if
you.
there was anything else. Nope, I think that's it.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. I know the bylaws revisions have been a long and arduous process. We appreciate the work that the Board Development Committee is doing, has done, and will continue to do to get those ready for us to hopefully approve soon. So thank you for that report. Our standing strategic planning committee did not meet. Our facilities committee, Robbie, did facilities meet? Robbie, did facilities meet?
We did not meet. I talked to Dr.
Okay.
Blackwell, and we're going to resume our meeting next month. It's been just a little bit going on this month.
Yeah, just a little. Thank you.
We'll resume next month.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, our ad hoc committees, our strategic planning ad hoc committee. Benji.
Yes, ma'am. Thanks again. The strategic plan outcome goals ad hoc committee met on Wednesday, 8/4. We had 6 of us in attendance there. Team reviewed the strategic outcomes for new charter school document, which was previously approved by the board back on April the 27th. The agenda for our meeting was to determine the frequency, the content, and the delivery platform to communicate our status towards achieving those goals. Dr. Carpenter's recommendation for us was to hold 2 meetings a year that were specifically focused on a deep dive of the academic results. Talked about the role of a superintendent is to execute the plan, and the role of the board was to ensure that the results had been satisfactorily achieved. The board is to monitor compliance on the leading indicators by measuring and evaluating the outcomes, not the processes. And the recommendation of the committee was to our board here, to the full board, is to have 2 academic focused meetings, one being held in October and the other being held in June. And Dr. Blackwell's team will be able to present to the board of directors and to the full community update on the school's progress in helping to achieve the established outcome goals. October will review some of the outcomes, numbers 1, 2, and 3, discussing the MAP test results, beginning of grade test, the ACT scores, SAT scores, end of grade results, end of course results, as well as the state report card grades, as well as any additional information that our superintendent feels is relevant. And then for our June meeting, we'll review items number 1, 2, and 4 from the same document, and that'll be MAP testing results and other data that the superintendent feels is beneficial to us, like the portrait of an NCS student, reviewing those and those character traits and how we're progressing on that goal as well. So that is the request to the full board, is to have 2 meetings a year. That is a deep dive on the academic side. And that is it.
Thank you, Benji. To clarify, is the committee requesting 2 additional meetings, or are they requesting those in lieu of our standing October and June meetings?
These will be standalone meetings that are just focused on the academic side. And that was kind of why Dr. Carpenter was talking about the reducing the number of meetings from 1 a month to going every other month. And so we can add in these 2 meetings and not really be addition, but this will be a deep dive focused on the academic side.
Right. Okay. So going hand in hand, if we were to go down to every other month with our regular standing meetings, then the October and June meetings would be additional to those 6. So we would have 8 meetings rather than the 11 that we currently have.
Yes, ma'am. That is correct.
Okay, perfect. All right. And so, Michelle, you know the bylaws way better than I do. Is that something that we need to clarify, whether the bylaws allow us to go down to 8 meetings?
I think our existing, I've looked at the old bylaws, the new bylaws so much without having them right in front of me. I believe
Mhm.
that our old bylaws require 8 meetings per year.
Okay. Okay.
But I can double check on that and then let everyone know.
Okay. All right. Benji, is that something that you wanted to bring a motion for tonight, or is that something that if we look at the bylaws to ensure whether we're able to do that or not, you would be comfortable with moving forward with that next month under unfinished business?
That is fine. We can review the bylaws and discuss next month.
Okay, perfect. Thank you very much for that.
Thank you.
I'll make a note to add that to unfinished business. All right. Systematic oversight calendar ad hoc committee. Nicole, anything to report?
Nothing to report.
Okay, thank you very much. Our ad hoc policy committee, Paul, anything to report?
Nothing to report there. I think what I want to do there is counsel a little bit with the board development committee after we finish the bylaws.
Okay.
About and just in general for members to get some input as we get into this exercise. Are we looking to codify certain policies or just keep the policies we have and organize them? So I'd like to try to revisit some of that and get a better, I guess, charter direction as to what we are exactly doing, and rather than come up and surprise people. So
okay, sounds like a good plan. Thank you. Under unfinished business, our motions log ad hoc committee for possible actions. Is there anything with that, Paul?
I'm at 2018, 2019.
All right. Hey.
Yeah. 2018, 2019. And then I want to go through and then it's one of the things we want to try to do is go through and make all the motions. There are certain things that we do that are uniform. They all need to be worded the same, and then try to go back and do some keywords. So still want to try to keep that right, but there's parts of that are usable now. So
wonderful. All right. Thank you very much for doing that. I'm glad that you're starting to see the light at the end of the tunnel in terms of getting closer to 2021. Yeah. So appreciate that. We've already done the strategic planning update, which was also under unfinished business. So we're good for that. We will move on to new business. The first thing under new business is the board consultant contract renewal, which refers to Dr. Carpenter. Michelle, I asked the board development committee to review that. Can you talk to us about what the board reviewed and any recommendations?
So the board development committee did meet, and we did discuss it, and we recommend that we move forward with the continued services of Dr. Carpenter. He is allowing, and this information was also in the board packet as well. It's a letter dated August 20th, 2021. And it allows us to continue using our hours that we have not utilized through December 31st, 2021. If you'll recall, I believe our initial contract allowed us up to 96 hours of remote assistance during a 1-year period. And we have not utilized all of those hours. And Jane, if you will, can you refresh my memory? I don't have it in front of me on the number of hours.
I believe it was, we've used about 2/3 of them.
Okay.
The original year was due to end at the end of September.
That's correct.
So the extension, yeah. Go ahead,
the
sorry.
extension would, no, that's okay. So the extension, yes, would go from September the 30th through December 31st of 2021. There's not an additional cost. He's just allowing us that extended time to utilize our hours, which we greatly appreciate. And then at the end of that, we do recommend that we continue with some sort of renew some sort of a contract with Dr. Carpenter for continued services, which we can revisit at the November board meeting. Okay. So I don't know that there's any action that the board needs to take at this time.
Okay.
That we're continuing on with the services.
Perfect. Yeah. Thank you so much. I think Nicole, did you have a question?
Just a point of clarification, but we will need to take action in November, correct?
That's correct. I mean, since we are just continuing on with we're extending the Maybe we do need a motion to extend the terms through December 31st of 2021.
Oh, because the contract itself expires.
Expired. Dr. Carpenter, do you have thoughts on that?
Yeah, just in context, the way this came up was I had actually looked at y'all's contract incorrectly and had told Jane that the year was going to run out at the end of August, and she was like, "Oh, I thought we were good till October." And so then I went back and looked at it and realized I had looked at the wrong month, and y'all are good through the end of September. But we said, well, since it had come up, I'd go ahead and submit you a renewal proposal, and in the course of that proposal, I realized that the original language could have been a lot clearer as far as there not being, hours rolling over and all of that. And so I revised the letter, and I think I gave you the revised letter, and I assume that's one you all distributed. So that paragraph is in blue. So there's really no action that needs to be taken right now. As I said in my email, I'm going to honor the contract that we have through the end of December instead of the end of September, no matter what you do. Yeah, as far as then, if you want to renew later on, yeah, you can put that on the November or December agenda even.
Perfect. December is the only month that we typically take off, so we'll put it on the November agenda. But thank you for the clarification, Dr. Carpenter, and thank you also for extending the amount of time that we have to use the hours that we have contracted with you for. I know I speak for myself, but I also know that for many, for everyone on the board, we've really benefited greatly from your expertise and from your counsel and from your recommendations and your education. I feel like this board has grown by leaps and bounds in the last 11 months, and the vast majority of that is due to what you have taught us and what you've helped us understand about our role as a school board, and I am very, very grateful. I know the rest of the board is as well, and we appreciate very much you extending the contract and allowing us 3 additional months to use those hours. As like most schools, that money will be put to good use. So thank you so much for that.
Yeah, you're welcome. I'm glad my camera doesn't seem to be working right, because you'd be seeing me blush right now. But you're welcome.
Well, happy to make you blush for a good reason like that. Thank you for everything. Okay, so thank you, Michelle and Board Development Committee. Appreciate your recommendation, and we will revisit this at our November meeting. Okay, we're moving on to the next item under new business, which is board meeting location. We did have a couple of board members ask whether we were going to be moving back to in-person meetings. So at this point, if anyone would like to make a motion regarding where our meetings will be held moving forward, I will entertain a motion. Okay, hearing no motion, I think that we will continue on as we have. The virtual meetings were determined based on the situation with COVID at the request of Dr. Blackwell, and based on the recommendations of a variety of people. I think if no one is going to make a motion then to change the way that we're doing this, then we will just continue virtually for the time being. Okay, moving on to our COVID-19 protocols. This is in regards to the mask mandate that this board voted on at our emergency meeting in July. When we voted on that, we put that in place through the end of August. And the end of August is quickly approaching. So I will entertain a motion regarding the COVID-19 protocols for masks.
Jane, I'll just as a point of order, I'll remind everyone that last month the board moved to require masks indoors for all students and staff through August 31st. That motion and that vote was based on, per Michelle Denning, it was based on state recommendations, our state health director, our county health department, the American Medical Association, the American Academy of Pediatrics, and our current Johnson County COVID data. Now, today we need to make a decision what to do beyond August 31st. And we all know that the current Johnson County COVID data has done nothing but worsen. And based on Dr. Blackwell's report, she has let us know that things are increasingly difficult and increasingly tenuous at school just in these less than 3 weeks. Based on that, and based on the fact that none of those recommendations from those various organizations and governmental entities has not changed, and I would just like to point out, I know some of these recommendations can be polarizing in that, we're very wary of, who's recommending and, based on what data. I just want to remind everybody that, the American Academy of Pediatrics and the American Medical Association are organizations simply of doctors and pediatricians across the country. I'm sure it can be very political, but it is the recommendation of doctors across the country. And based on that and those recommendations, I'd like to make a motion to require masks indoors for all students and staff through the end of the calendar year.
Thank you, Nicole. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Paul. Any discussion? Yes, Robbie raised his hand. Robbie, sorry, you're on mute. We can't hear you.
Thank you. Thank you, Jane. So Nicole, you said calendar year. You talking about December or school calendar year?
I'm sorry, I apologize. December 31st, 2021.
Okay.
Thank you for the clarification. Other questions, comments, discussion?
I guess I would ask the one question of why the end of the year and why not do it on the month-to-month basis like we have? Nicole?
Good question, Jason. I felt like, if anybody wants to amend the motion, they certainly can. But it appears based on, hold on just a minute. Sorry, I had to shush my family. They didn't start talking until I talked.
Of course.
Based on the current trend and the predictions for fall, it doesn't look like things are going to get better. And so that was my thought, was just to give staff and families just a little continuity through the end of the year. Those are my thoughts.
As a question of protocol, if we did see the trends change, which I'm not sure that they will, or the guidance changed, we could still go back and change it at a future date if we had a reason to.
Absolutely. Other questions, comments?
I think one thing we need to make sure of is that, as I kind of reflected on our last meeting a little bit. It's kind of interesting that when we're kind of voting on a policy on masks, but when we look at the school toolkit and the DHS services, whatever, there's a lot of other recommendations in there that we need to make sure we're following them all. And it's kind of interesting that mask is like a subset of one point of all the mitigation strategies that we could look at, which I get it's become politically, it's almost become a religion within itself, within the country, right? And even the world for that matter. So I feel like it's a little bit odd that that one point is voted on by itself and versus the overall guidance. I mean, if you read it in factual terms, I mean, they say recommend and they don't mandate it. So I think that confused some of our parents from last time, that we followed them. It was a recommendation, but it was a mandate. But in quarantining, for example, is a mandate. So to me, there's just some ambiguity in there.
So thank you, Rodney. That's a really good question. I believe that the reason that the board is only talking about masks is because that is the board has to be the one to vote on whether to require masks or not. That is not something that can be that Dr. Blackwell is allowed to do. That is something that has to come from the board. The strong schools things like you're talking about, the quarantine, those things, as Melissa had in her presentation, the local school leaders, meaning administration, are responsible for requiring and implementing the strategies in the Strong Schools North Carolina Public Health Toolkit. So I read that from the quote that she had. So the difference there is that the school leaders, meaning Dr. Blackwell and administration, are the ones that are required to implement the strategies in the toolkit, but only the board can vote on or determine how to handle masks. So that's why that's the only thing we're voting on. It's not the board's responsibility to implement the strong schools. Any other questions or comments? I'm sorry, go ahead, Robbie.
Just one thing. So which in reality, we're, again, I mentioned this last time, and I'm not going to beat a dead horse, but we're giving her something she can't. We're giving Dr. Blackwell something that she can't manage because we're mandating masks indoors and we're telling them to take them off to eat, right? So, and when you go to any campus, because I'm at the county campuses right much, I promise you'll see it's something that she can't manage. But let's just vote and we'll go forward.
Well, I think that we need to be really careful to what we say she can and can't manage. I think what she stated at the beginning is that we would have multiple times as many people out and quarantined if we didn't have the mask mandate. And I think it's a little bit, and I know you don't intend this, Robbie, but it almost sounds like you're saying that she's not able to handle this. There are schools across the country that are doing that.
That's
and
not
so
all. I don't need anybody putting words in my mouth. That's not what I'm saying at all. I'm saying we're giving her a situation where we're telling, like I said last time, you're requiring, the board is voting on, let's make them wear masks all the time. That's what we're saying. That's what we're voting on. And then whenever they're inside, they're taking them off. They're kids, right? These are kids. All the teachers are saying it. We can sit here and say what we want to in a board meeting, but I'm telling you, all the kids are kindergarten, first, second, third grade are taking them down. I'm at the county schools. I will tell you, I'm seeing it. So no, I'm saying exactly what I'm saying. I want that to be on record.
Okay, so you're saying she can't handle it. Thank you. Okay, so what we're going to,
that's not what I'm saying, John. I'm saying we're giving her a situation that is, she can't manage. It's not handling. It's not personal.
Okay, you're right. Okay, I apologize. I used the word handle. So you're on record saying that she can't manage this. So here's the issue. I think that we should just move to vote, and I don't think that we should say one way or the other whether Dr. Blackwell, who is a capable professional, can manage her school. All right, so any other comments or questions? All right, I will call the roll for a vote. Nicole.
Aye.
Michelle.
Aye.
Rodney.
Opposed?
Jason.
Aye.
Jennifer.
Aye.
Robbie.
Opposed.
Benji.
Opposed.
Paul.
Aye.
And I vote aye. That is 6 votes aye, 3 votes nay. The motion carries. I appreciate that everyone has strong opinions. Robbie, I'm going to apologize to you right now. I shouldn't have said what I said to you. What you said struck me wrong. I apologize for calling you out in public. I shouldn't have done that. I'm sorry.
Fine. I'm not saying that she can't do her job. I'm saying it's no different if you go anywhere in this, in this state. It's just almost impossible for her to manage that. Managing is very different than being able to handle. She can handle her job.
Yes, I appreciate that. And I'm
No
sorry.
problem.
It struck me wrong. I shouldn't have. Okay.
Jane, you're on mute.
You went on mute.
Sorry. Thank you. Let's move on to board development and self-assessment. We don't have anything there. We are going to go into closed session. And so I will entertain a motion to move into closed session for personnel and administrative discussion per North Carolina General Statute 143-318.11A6. Do I have a motion to move into closed session?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Thank you. All right. I will call the roll to vote to move into closed session. Nicole.
Aye.
Michelle.
Aye.
Rodney.
Aye.
Jason.
Aye.
Jennifer.
Aye.
Robbie.
Aye.
Benji.
Aye.
Paul.
Aye.
All right, we will move into closed session. You should have been sent a link, and then we will come back into open session when we are finished. Thank you all very much. Okay, it looks like we have a quorum. So I will entertain a motion regarding the personnel recommendations that were made in closed session.
I make a motion that we approve Dr. Blackwell's personnel recommendations as presented in closed session.
Thank you.
Second.
I think, was that Jason, Benji?
Both.
One of you. Both of you? Okay.
Yeah, both.
And you got a second and a third on that one.
Doubly second. There we go. Second, third. A tie for second. Okay. Any discussion? Hearing none, I will call the roll. Nicole.
Aye.
Michelle.
Aye.
Rodney. Rodney, I think you're muted.
Aye.
Jason.
Aye.
Jennifer.
Aye.
Robbie.
Aye.
Benji.
Aye.
Paul.
Aye.
Motion carries. The personnel recommendations made by Dr. Blackwell in closed session are approved. And having completed the agenda for today's News Charter School Board of Directors meeting, I hereby adjourn this meeting at 8:04 p.m. on August 24th, 2021. Thank you all very much. Have a good night.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.